Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hope I'm audible and everyone could see my screen here.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
nice, good. So, where are we, guys? What are we discussing in the last class? I think we are done with the bootstrap part or the CSS3 part, those things we have seen. And in the last class, we had a good idea on, we discussed about what actually a server means, what are the roles and responsibilities of a server which is playing within a project. How do you host? I mean, we have discussed only about what is hosting and what are the services it is providing. How it is doing, we haven't yet gone. And we have seen some more examples of what are the other servers which are possibly there, and why the reason we are only going for the Node.js being a full stack developer. So those topics we had a look, including the advantages, including the architecture, how it is single threaded model, how it is IO based, the Node.js is. So those things, a non-blocking system. So these are the keywords of Node.js here. Like it is a non-blocking, it is a single-threaded model, it is a IO based. So these are the keywords of the Node.js. So that's what we discussed in the last class, guys. So any questions on the top of it? Is everyone clear with the things what we discussed in the last class?
Yes, sir. Julian.
Okay, very nice. So on the top today, let us actually start with your Node.js, guys. Okay, so we have already seen the installation process. Okay, it is a simple, like when you go into the Node.js here, nodejs.dev. Here we have the Node.js, which is the 16.13 is the latest version what you go for. Okay, and make sure you even keep the version name what actually you are working, guys. I was telling the same from the very starting, right? When you go into the organizations, they just don't ask that whether you have experience or not. To just check your real time thing, they say that, okay, which version of Node you have experience. Okay, so you need to come up with the version number, like either 16, 14, or 17, whatever it is. Okay, so 16.13 is the latest version. Once you download these, guy, we already seen this installation process. So once you download this, to check whether the Node.js installation is successful or not, go to your command prompt and give the command as node space -v, which will tell you the current version what your node got installed. In my system, it is 14.17. And yesterday I was discussing, along with the Node.js, once you install Node, you will even get something called as NPM. So what do you mean by this NPM? It's a Node package manager, which helps you acting as a mediator between the user and the Node modules. So I was saying, right? I mean, anything what you do in the Node is all the modules. Modules can be user defined or predefined. So whenever you want to install the module, create the module, install, uninstall the module, update the module, anything you want to do, it's through npm we are going to do that. Okay. So when I say npm -v, it is also getting installed. I mean, when you install the Node.js, it comes along with this npm. So to check whether Node and npm is working fine or not, just run the command of npm-v and node-v. So once this environment is done, remember at the final, at the climax, yesterday I was saying that once you install the Node.js, doesn't mean that you have installed the server, but you have set up a platform for creating a server. Installing the Node.js is not equal to creating a server. Server is ready to use? No. And Node has provided a platform for you. On the top, we can create our own servers, whatever we wanted. Okay. So in order to create a server, how do we go for the steps? Okay. So the very first step, I'll go with very simple creation here. Let me go with Visual Studio Code. Okay. Where is this? Okay. So this guy. I'll make it as my orals first server.js. Anytime we are going to, we know that the main advantage what we get within your Node.js is we are going to use the programming language JavaScript. No other programming language. We are going to make use of the JavaScript. Internally, Node.js is taking the support of V8 JavaScript Chrome engine, which has been developed by Google. So that is how it is even executing the instructions more faster. Okay. So first of all, if at all I have to create a server, what you need to do is you need to create a simple individual .js file. Okay. Now under the JS file, we have the very first step. So first of all, I would like to create a HTTP server. You can go with either HTTP or HTTPS. But if you know the difference, right? HTTP hypertext stands for protocol, whereas the HTTPS is hypertext stands for protocol with security. So it is going to add some security while the data is being transmitted or received from the client and server. So in order to make use of the HTTPS, you need to have the cert files and the PEM files, so which you will be provided with the domain creator. Like if you go for GoDaddy to create a domain, they will be providing you the cert files also, the certificates, which you have to make use, and you have to create a HTTPS server. But other than including the cert and PEM files, the steps, how do we create a HTTP server is almost like the same. Okay. So let us go with this guy. In order to make use of a HTTP module, and not just only HTTP module, in your Node application, whatever the Node module you are using, one second, let me go with this guy, CMD. Whatever the Node application you're going to create it, you always have to install the particular Node module. So in order to install a Node module, I simply say npm install something called as HTTP. HTTP is the Node module which is used to create a HTTP server. Okay, so the very first step is I need to include the Node module. Now, once I click on enter, so it is going to download this guy. In order to install any of the Node module, you should have internet connection, because it connects to the npm registry. From there, it is going to get the corresponding Node module. Now, once you get the Node module, where actually it is getting installed, where actually it is getting copied. So whenever you go with a folder called as node underscore modules, it is one of the predefined folder which you cannot rename it. You cannot say that was not node modules, I want to put some ABC XYZ, not at all. Node underscore modules is a predefined folder gets created, under which all the Node modules, whatever you want to work with, they will be automatically gets installed within the node underscore modules folder. Okay, now if you see, it should be having this HTTP folder. Whatever the HTTP node module you have, this is what actually it is. So like this, we will go with lot of node modules, but the very first thing what we are going is HTTP node module. Okay, and when you actually go into the node modules, right, say for example, this is what the DPD or else cookie is one of the node module. Now if I go inside it, it is going to have again a .js file, under which actually the code of how do we use the cookies API, so which is being defined. Like this, when you go to any of the node module, they will be having their own predefined .js file, which will have the piece of code for the corresponding node module. Everything is again a .js file. It's all JavaScript. Okay. So the first step what we have done is we have included we have downloaded or installed the required node module, which is HTTP. Now, once you download that guy, you need to refer or you need to point out that guy. So how do I point out? In Node.js, there is a predefined method, something called as require method. Require is one of the predefined method using which you can point out or refer existing node module. So I would like to refer an existing node module called as HTTP. And for this, I would like to give a reference where some test is equal to something. You can give any value, but it is recommended to give a relevant name, right? I say HTTP. So where HTTP is equal to require HTTP. What do you mean by this? you have to include a node module called as HTTP. So here, the very first question what you will be having is, how come this require guy know that what folder I need to go in order to find out a HTTP module? So the default, what actually it will do is, it will go into the current directory. Where is my current directory? I'm into the December 14 under this guy. From here, the require method will try to find out a folder called as node underscore modules. Do we have this here? No. Go back to this step. Do we have this here? Yes. Now from here, it will try to find out the HTTP node module. So you don't need to specify the path of node underscore module. By default, anytime you use this require method, it will try to find out the corresponding node module only from the node underscore module folder only. Okay. Next, once you have your server, you have to, once you included the HTTP node module, you need to create a server. How do I do that? Where some server is equal to HTTP dot, what is this HTTP? The reference. It is having a predefined method, something called as create server. Okay, first of all, we are including the HTTP node module. Second step is we are creating a node server. On the top, we use something called as make the server to listen to a particular port number. Okay, server dot listen. So what do you mean by the server dot listen? Anytime you are running any server within a machine, it can be accessible outside of it through a port number. Any server you go with a database server, you go with the application server, web server, any server you go, for sure they can be accessible through a gate, which we call it as a port number. This port number, what we give is user defined. Only restriction what you have is multiple servers cannot run under the single port number. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Next. Now, here under the server.listen, you need to specify the port number. I say something called as 8081 is my port number. So simple 3 steps, guys. Now coming back to the step number 2, when you are creating a server, whenever you say the method called as create server, it actually takes a callback method. You know what I mean by this callback method? With anonymous function I'm defining. So this callback method comes with 2 predefined objects. One is the request object and another is the response object. Anytime guys who already have an idea of Java, if you want to relate it with the servlets, remember you will be having something called as XML HTTP request object and XML HTTP response. So the same thing here, we have a request and response, 2 predefined parameters. Here it is not like it has to be only request. No, it can be something called as ABC and it can be PQR also. The ABC object will hold the request. The next parameter will hold the response. But to make it more self-descriptive, we are saying it as a request and response. Okay. Now, the next part what we have is, so what does this request object is going to hold? The request object is going to hold all the extra information regarding the request being created from the user. When the user is putting a request from the client machine, when it goes to the server, request object will be having all the extra information of the user, from what location user is putting a request, what time user is putting a request, what OS he is going to put a request, what browser he is going to put a request. So every extra information regarding the user, it is will be part of your request object. And what is this response? If the server need to respond back to the user request, we will be using this response object. So for now, I simply say response dot write. Okay, I say that hello, successfully created a server. This is what the message we have added. Okay, we just simply said that hello, successfully created a server. And once this guy is done, you need to close the response. Response dot end is the predefined method using which you can actually close the request what actually we are going to send back to the, sorry, response what actually we want to send to the server or to the client. That's it. Save this guy. That's it. Any questions on this piece of code? A simple piece of code. We are creating a server. Anyone who hits to the server, they will simply get a message that hello successfully got created. That's it. So any questions on the top of this stuff, these simple lines?
Sir, could you explain request and response once again?
Sorry, I didn't get you. What is your question?
Please explain a request, sir, once again.
Okay. Request object, right? Okay, let me tell you, you would have heard about this thing. Like anytime, right? Sometimes like some spam mails or some like terrorist mails, they are going to put a mail saying that a threat is going to happen, something like that. How come the department, they could able to find out from which source or from which location they are going to send the mails? Anytime when you are sending a mail, anytime you're communicating from the client machine to the server guy automatically gets some extra information regarding the request being generated or regarding the client from which the request is getting generated. These guy will be having extra information, which who is the guy created the request, what time the request has been generated, what is the IP of the system from where request object is getting created, what is the location, the standard time standards, what actually he is using, what operating system, what browser. So hell lot of information will be part of the request object. And using the response, like say for example, user is sending the data also, like when you're registering, you will be giving some all the details. Once you click on submit, I need to take the data and I need to send to the server. So which object is going to hold all the user sending information? It is all part of your request object. So these all information will be part of your request object. Am I clear? Okay, next. So the next part what we have is, we created a simple server coding. Save this guy. What is my next job? My next job is, I need to start the server and see how it is throwing the response back to us. Okay. So how do you start your server within your Node.js? Under your Node.js, first of all, go to the folder where you have the JS file or the server file. So I have December 14. Under this, I have, now if you click on CMD, this is where it is. In order to start the server, only command what you have is node is the command. Anytime you want to start a Node.js server, the only command what you have is node with what is the file name, first server.js, or you don't even need to give the .js. This will also work. Now, if you click on enter, the server got started. Okay. But here, if you see here, was server got started, do you see any message? It's just showing a command prompt. Doesn't mean that it got, you're not getting any extra information, right? That is the reason whenever you say server.listen, add a second parameter, optional parameter, which is a callback method, which gets called automatically when the server started listening. So here, why don't we put a message, console log, server is listening at 8081. This is what I would like to keep. Server is listening at 8081. Now, if you close this guy, okay. Now you restart the server CLS. Now, when I'm saying node first server, do you see a message that server is listening at 8081? Yes. So here you're getting an extra information. It is not like a simple command prompt being shown, but you're getting a message that server started listening. Oh, okay. Is it? Now you go to the command prompt, sorry, browser. Now you say localhost 8081, click on enter. This is what the message you are receiving from the server. This is how simple steps you follow to create a server within your Node.js. Any questions? Clear, everyone?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
nice. Now the next point what we have is what type of data you are returning from the server. You can even specify that request header or write header you can do. What I can say that response. I can say that response dot write head is the predefined method under which it takes two parameters. The first parameter is the status code, whether the response what you're throwing back to the user is successful. If it is successful, you have to say 200. If the server is having some error, 500. If it is a bad request, 400. Like this, you can specify the status code also. Okay. And the second part is an object you need to specify. Under that, you are going to say content type. What type of content you're going to respond here? I'm going to respond a text of HTML type, as simple as it is. Okay, so whenever or else if you say text here, text or text. Now if you save this, assume I want to put this guy inside a bold format. Now I say bold. Okay, I want to show the message within the bold format. Now if you restart the server, come back here and reload the page. Do you see it is treating as a HTML? No. Why so? The response type what you have set is text. Now, instead of text, if you make it as a HTML, and anytime you do changes to the server side, the code has to be recompiled. In order to get recompiled, you need to restart your server. Just say Control C, click on node server so and so. Now, if you come back and reload the page, now if you see the bold content is treated as a HTML content. So whenever you're responding back to the user, you need to specify what type of content you're going to return back to the user. Remember, when we are actually working on Ajax concept, we were specifying the data type, what we are expecting from the server. We used to specify JSON, XML, etc. Anyway, JSON is more preferred. So when the server is responding back, server also need to specify what type of data I'm responding. So you can say text or JSON, string or HTML or XML. Like this, you can actually specify. Okay. So this is how you can specify the status code or content type when you are responding the data from the server side. Any questions?
Sir, what happen if we don't close the response?
What happens if we don't close the response? Okay, so you mean to say dot end method you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yes.
We don't close this, and if you don't say end message, let us restart the server. Now, if you come back and reload the page, the server client is keep on waiting. See, it is still loading. It is still waiting for the response. It's not going with the further execution because it is an assumption that server is still executing and I need to wait for that. So that is the reason you need to say that, boss, we are done. Once you receive something, if we say response dot done, implies you stop looking for a response back from the user. This is what it is. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Next. Okay, next. Now, say for example, I would like to pass some data. Okay, and there is something called how do we read the URL from the server? I mean, whatever the URL what user is passing, or else you can say something like this, right? Question mark, not question mark. I can say okay, something like this. I have some parameters what I'm passing to the server, like name, test, and age. So how do you read these parameters? Remember, when we are actually creating the form tag, we are passing the parameters within the form tag. Now, how do you read those parameters from the server side? In order to read the, or in order to work with the URL, again, there is a predefined node module, something called as require URL. URL is one of the predefined node module using which you could able to work with the URL of the application, or you could able to work with reading the query parameters what user is passing. Now let us say under this guy, I say console.log request.url. Let us see what is the request.url what we are getting. Now if you restart npm start, when I'm reloading the page, when I'm inspecting this guy, do you see in the console the URL is coming? No. Then where is that? Here we have added the console.log, right? Boss, we have done the changes on the server side. It doesn't affect within the browser. You need to open the command prompt in order to see the URL. You see here, this is what the URL what we have sent, the extra parameters, name equal to test and a equal to 20. Yes. So anytime you're putting the console, or anytime you're putting the changes on the server side coding, you need to look into the server side command prompt, not in the browser. One thumb rule you need to understand here, guys. Server guy cannot do any type of changes within the client machine. Server guy can only or simply take the request from the user, process it, and responds back the data. That's it. You say that handle the error from the server side. No, remember we have already done this. When actually we are working with the Ajax, we are putting a server call. Server is delaying some time. Server might throw some error. But is server guy showing some errors on the page or showing the loading message? No, it's all UI guy or the client side. It has to be handled because due to security, server doesn't have much control and not at all a control on the of the client side. Server simply throws a response. We as a UI developer need to catch that guy and do the corresponding changes. Okay. Next. Now, okay, you're getting this name, test, and age, right? But what if I would like to read it like a message? I mean, if you see, it is not like values, but it's just like a slash question mark name equal to text, etc. So how do you read this data? That is where you are going to make use of URL node module. Now, what I say is, I say where query object is equal to URL dot parse request dot URL true dot. Okay, let us see this guy. What actually this guy is coming. When I say console.log query object, I want to see what actually the object you're going to get. Okay, so once I reload this page, once I hit this guy, do you see a JSON object you could able to find it out? See all the parameters, whatever you're passing. Remember this part we have done when we are actually working with the form tag, very initial stage. We used to create a form tag. Under the form tag, put all the values. When you say method equal to get, and once you click on the submit, it used to automatically read the data from the user, and it used to make it as a query parameter, and it used to respond, it used to hit the particular server. So under the query parameters, whatever the data is going, could we able to read it from the server side? Yes. So this is what we are going to do. So anytime you want to read the data, URL.parse is the method which takes that, okay, boss, what is the URL you have? And you have to parse it for true. And dot query, anytime you're going to read the data of the get method, we say dot query. If it is post, we say dot body. Anyway, post thing I will show you later. But anytime you want to read the data being passed from the get method, we say dot query. It is going to return the data. So this is how server is going to read the data. Now it is up to we, like processing the data or saving the data into the database, whatnot. You can do what are other things from the server side piece of code. Okay, so this is a very simple steps to create a server and read the data, guys. Any more questions on this?
Sir, I didn't get that true part. Why we're using that true in request.url?
Okay, so let us say something called as false here. Let us see this, what actually it is happening. That's a good point. Now, when I'm coming over here, when I say reload, coming back to this guy, what actually we got? So the true indicates convert that guy into an object. If you don't specify that, this is what you're going to treat. It is not converting that as an object. It is simply removing the slash. It is not treating it as a URL, but it is treating it as a string. Now, when I say true indicates, please convert the data what you get in the form of a JSON object, url.parse method. Am I clear, Kumkum?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next.
Sir, one more question is there.
ahead.
In CMD, why there is fab icon is coming after this name and age? Fab icon.icu.
Okay. Anytime, whatever the request we are going to put from the client side, it will automatically go to the server. Yes. If you go into the source code, by default, if you see whatever the fab icon, if you see here, right, this guy is actually going to the server. So any URL, whatever you generate from the client side, it is going to the server, and whatever the fab icon by default, my browser cache it is taken out and it is putting a request to the localhost 8081. That is where it is going to the server. Okay, forget about this. Now, when I say something called localhost 8081, say something called a sample test. Now, if you click on this guy, you see you should able to get the request to the server. See, am I getting the request from the sample test also? Anything, whatever you hit to localhost 8081, it will automatically come. As the localhost 8081 internally putting this fab icon request, that is where it is going to the request. I mean, that is where it is showing that, okay, I got a request to this guy.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Clear? Yeah. Next. Okay. Anyway, guys, these all points again I'm going to discuss because right now we are using the plain vanilla Node.js without any dependency of the framework. Sooner, we are going to start with the Express framework. Node.js is a plain vanilla. It's like a JavaScript. On the top, we used to use the framework like Angular and so and so, right? In the same way, at the server side, plain Node.js is there. On the top, we are going to make use of the Express framework to make the things more faster and scalable and robust applications can be created. Okay. Next. We already know that the main intention of going for the server is even capable of reading or working with the files, isn't it? Servers are capable of reading or working with the files also here. Okay, so how these files are been working here? So how you are going to read a file or write the file, etc. information? Let me create a separate file. Again, I'm going to create a separate server. My files server.js. Okay, now I go with anyway, doesn't matter whatever the file you go. First of all, you need to create a HTTP server, isn't it? So how do we create a HTTP server? We just already finished this. We say where HTTP, and once you install the node module, you don't need to reinstall them. So I already installed the HTTP node module. I'm just making use of it. I say require something called as HTTP. And we already know that. I say I need to create a server where server equal to HTTP dot create server method like this. Now I need to say server dot listen. What is the port number? And it is better to put a callback function which tells that what port number server is listening. I say console.log. Server is listening at 8081. Simple as this. Okay. Now under this, we know every time the create server comes with a callback method with two predefined objects here. Okay. Now this guy is going to hold the request object and response object. Okay, now you say response dot write. I say done, and I say response dot end with it. Okay, these are the common steps. Doesn't matter what the server you're going to create. Now I restart this. I say node my file server.js. It is listening at so and so. Once I reload this page, I'm getting a message as done, right? Gone. Next, what is my next step? My next step is I want to read some file information, guys. Let me create a simple file, something called a sample.txt. I say that hello, everyone, I'm from sample file text. Doesn't matter what the file you want, you can create it. I'm creating a file called a sample.txt. My expectation is anytime user is hitting this URL, I should able to read the file, the sample.txt. I need to return that as a response to the user. Okay, so that is what my simple requirement is. When the user hits the server, I need to read the data from the particular file and throw that information back to the user, whatever the file information is. So how you're going to do this? So the very first thing is we need to talk about a new node module, something called as FS node module, file system or file streaming. So what is the use of this FS module? It is one of the predefined node module, comes with all the set of predefined methods using which we could able to work with the file system. Okay, so how you're going to use this guy? Same, where fs is equal to require fs node module. Okay, on the top, anytime you want to work with a file, so you simply use this fs guy, something like fs dot read file is a predefined method. You need to specify what is the name of the file. Sample.txt is the file name. Okay, and it is going to take a callback method, which is something called as error, comma, data. So data is the data what we are getting back from the files. Okay, now you take out this guy. I put it over here. And instead of response.done, can I write the data what I'm reading from the server? Yes. And let's write the response header also. I say response dot write write head. We are going to specify it is success 200. We are going to make a second one as an object. Under that we say content hyphen type. Content type is text or HTML, as simple as it is. Okay, now if you save this guy, come back here and reload. Why it is still saying done? Why it is not responding the file content? Anyone?
Sir,
Restart the
HTML file
server.
name, sir.
Restart
It's
the
text.
server.
Uh,
Anytime you are doing any changes within the server side, you need to restart the server. Now once I restart the server, it is throwing me an error
In
that
HTML file, sir, in the code. Missing.
Code HTML, sir.
no, not here. Here you see the
Line number 5, sir.
I need to put an arrow.
Arrow function.
Yes. So this should be a semicolon. Save this guy. Come back here. Then I say node so and so. Server is listening. When I'm hitting this guy, could I able to read the content from the files, guys?
Yes.
Which is not visible with the client side coding. A plain JavaScript code is not capable of reading or working with any file system. Now we are depending upon the server. Servers are capable of interacting with the database or interacting with the file system. So once you hit the server, it is reading the file content and it is throwing back to the user. So this is one of the advantages what you have with your servers or the servers. Any questions? So like this, if at all. And one main thing here I need to tell you guys, a very different type of syntax what Node.js follows here is You know that anytime you do any of the piece of job, when you call any of the callback methods, the very first thing, first parameter what you receive is if it is success, and the second parameter is if it is error. Agree or not? Anytime you
Yes.
go to any of the piece of job, any of the callback
Yes,
method,
sir.
the first parameter, it will be always if it is success, what has to be done. Second thing is if it is error, right or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. The different part what Node.js follows is it always takes the first parameter as an error. Okay, first parameter what it takes is an error. If it is error, first parameter. Second thing, if it is response, the second parameter will be invoked. Am I clear? So if you see here at line number 5, you can see that read file is a callback method which is taking two parameters. First parameter is a file name. Now, whatever the callback method you got, the very first thing is error. So when you get an error, if it is an error, so what you can do, you can simply say that response dot write instead of this data, you can simply say error while reading files. What if like the file is not there? Some error you will be getting, right? Anyway, the response header has to be common. Doesn't matter whether you have the data or don't have the data. That's it. This is how you're going to put it. If this is not the case, no, there is no error, then it will be something like this. This is how you're going to write the files. So read a file, so and so. When you have an error, you need to throw a response. If you don't have an error, this is what it is. What if like I give sample 123? Okay. So now if you restart your server, npm node so and so. Now if you reload the page, it is saying that error while reading the file. So error guy got invoked. So the first parameter. If you give sample.txt, go here, reload it, node so and so, this is how you are going to have the content of the file. So like this, not only the writing the file, if you see there is something called fs dot. If you see read file asynchronously, in the same way, rename a file, open a file, truncate a file, watch a file in the sense you have to put a watch. Anytime there is a change on the file, it will automatically get invoked. So write the file content like this, lot of operations, appending a file, opening a file, writing a file. So hell lot of jobs can be done using the existing fs node module. fs node module is a predefined node module, holds or used to work with the file system through your Node.js. I mean, within your Node.js server. Any questions, guys?
Sir, the file type can be document.
Sorry, can you repeat again? What was that?
Can the file type be a document?
Can a file type be a document? I mean, you mean to say instead of this, you say sample.doc, etc. and all?
Sir.
Yes, sir. Word
If
file or notepad file,
yeah,
etc.
that's what. Let's create an example out of it. Let me say word. Okay, let me say hello everyone. We are good here. Okay, let me save this guy. I want to save as this PC. Test. Okay, so let us go here. Instead of sample, I say test.doc. Save this guy, come back here, restart your server. Now, if you come back to this page, once I reload this guy, it is saying error while reading the file. The reason is when you say doc file or XLS files or PPT files, it is going to be read in the you need to have the corresponding software in order to open those files. In order to read such files, there is a different way, or we need to depend upon some third-party node module using which you can do. So only the .txt files can be read by default using the FS node module. Am I clear here?
Yes,
Because
sir.
if you could see, if you try to open a .doc file using any other software, try to open the .doc file using your notepad, try to open a .doc file using your Sublime or using a VS Code, they don't open, because when I say .doc, only MS Word is capable of opening those. So you have a dependency of the corresponding software. So in general, right, we don't the content. I mean, PDF, yes, it is a common format, but coming to the other formats, we generally don't save the regular content under the PDF or .docs or XLS. We don't do that. Any more questions? Okay. So if you see here, I mean, in a very simple example, earlier we have created a first server.js where we are writing the piece of code for create HTTP folder. I mean, include the HTTP node module, .create server method, etc. Again, I'm going with the my file server.js, again, HTTP.create server, doing everything. So whenever you are going to work with any of the server, creating a server is a very common job, and handling the errors is a common job. Handling the success is a very common job. Doesn't matter how many servers you're going to create, isn't it? So this is where you have a framework, something called as Express is one of the Node.js framework. Till now, whatever the servers we are going to create, we are using the plain vanilla Node.js code or Node.js methods in order to create the simple servers. Now, what Express says is, if you make use of my framework, I'm already giving some predefined methods and objects using which you can create more faster Node.js applications. Practical example, we already saw with the jQuery. Now, the reason why we go with the jQuery, using jQuery, we can minify the number of statements what we are going to write. Now, if I ask that, is jQuery is doing any magic? No, it is again a JavaScript code, which has been already written. We just make use of those methods. Being a developer, you are simplifying the instructions. Background, it again executes the JavaScript code. In the same way, Express is one of the node module or node framework using which you can actually simplify the instructions what you write, and better scalable applications can be created under the Node.js. On the top, there is even another module, something called as Express-generator. It is one of the predefined node module which helps you to create a minimum folder structure if you create any of the node server. Now, whenever I say server, a lot of things to be handled. How you're going to handle the server, how you're going to start the server, how you are going to put the static resources, how you're going to create the web services inside it, how you're going to handle the public folder or so and so. A lot of things to be done in a single server. What Express generator is doing is, it is one of the predefined node module which helps you in creating a minimum folder structure for any node server which is internally using Express node module. Repeating again, Express is one of the node module which will help you to provide predefined methods and objects using which you can create better scalable and robust node applications. Point number one. Then what is Express generator? These guys on the top of Express, what he is doing, I'm not providing any predefined methods, etc. and all. I will simply help you. Now, if you want to create a project, you need to create a static folder. You need to add minimum piece of code to start the server, handle that, etc. I will take care of it. I will help you in creating a minimum folder structure what you wanted. Practical example, assume I'm going to construct some buildings. Assume I'm a builder, I'm going to construct some buildings. Assume like I have some hundreds of buildings I need to construct. What is the very minimum thing I need to create, guys? If one of the third-party person comes and tell me that, boss, I will help you. What is the help I can provide? Minimum minimum structure for a building. I will put on the base, I will put on the pillar, I will put on the slab. That's it. Is it not the very minimum thing what I need to do? Doesn't matter whatever the building I construct. Yes, that is what the help the Express generator is helping. He is on the top of Express here. He will simply help you to create a complete folder structure to create a Node.js server, which is internally using Express application. So in order to make use of these two things, you need to install two of the Node modules, which is called npm install express -g. What do you mean by -g? We don't want to make use of the Express not only on the current directory, but anywhere within the application. Now, if you click on enter, Express will be installed. Okay. On the top, I can go for Express generator is a predefined module, which is also getting installed globally. Super fine. Now what I want to do is, I don't want to into this 8 p.m. folder. I want to create a dedicated folder for my server. I want to create a dedicated folder for my server, whatever the server we want to create. How do we do this? In order to do that, we have a command, something called as express. What is the folder name or what is the server name? I will say web application. Click on enter. Now, once you do this, you go back here. Where is the folder? Web application. If you open this guy, do you see the minimum folder structure and the minimum file content already been added? Yes. Now, if you open this bin folder, there is a file called as www. You see here what actually we have. Is it not having the HTTP node module? Is it not having the code of create the server? So now you don't need to write that because that is a very minimum piece of code, isn't it? So you don't need to write that piece of code. That is a very minimum piece of code, which every server has to be added. So that is how we simply make use of this Express generator. See, he is taking care of how to listen to the port number. He is taking care of how do we handle when there is an error. So everything is already been added. You as a developer don't need to do anything. Just make use of the thing. Okay. And one more thing, internally, if you look into this piece of code, it is using some of the node modules, isn't it? It is using something called as debug node module, HTTP node module. So how you want to install them? In order to install them, we will be using a command. First of all, let us go into this guy, cd web application. We are into the folder. Now you say npm install. Once you click on install, it will automatically list out or downloads all the dependency node modules of your current project. That too, in what folder? Node underscore modules folder. See here under node modules, these all are the node modules which it is already depending. Now the question what you get raised is, here you only said the npm space install. You never specified what node modules to be installed. How come it is installing all or these many set of node modules? From where it is finding out? So there is a file, something called as package.json. Package.json is a predefined file which have the extra information of the current node module or the current project. So if you see here under this, is it not having the dependencies? Yes. Now, whenever you say npm space install, it will automatically look for a file called as package.json. What if this file is not there? Assume I go up here, I close this guy, I say F2, I say package 1 here. Okay. Now, if you come back, when I say npm install, see what is going to happen? It is automatically throwing an error saying that no such file or directory, something called as package.json. Whenever you simply say npm install, it will automatically look for a file called as package.json file, a predefined file. That is the file which is going to hold the list of all the node modules whichever are dependent on. Whatever the node modules which need to be installed, all the list is already part of the package.json. It is going to install all of them. Okay, so when you go to the package.json, see here, you could see that some node modules already been added. See here, cookie parser. See whether a cookie parser is installed or not. Go here. There is something called as cookie. Where is this? Okay, see here, cookie parser got installed. But you might have one of the question, boss, if we see under the package.json, there are only 6 or 7 packages being added. But here, there are some mini number of packages. How come? The thing is, when you go into the cookie parser, example, when I go into the cookie parser, it might depend on another node module. Yes. If you see here, it is having its own package.json. Once you open the package.json, don't save. Once you, I trust this others. Come on, man. Where is it? Okay. Once I open this package.json, do you see he is having some dependencies? These all are the node modules, what actually it is depending on. Isn't it? Where is that dependency? See, these all are the node. He is depending on cookie. He is depending on cookie signature. Now, when I install the cookie or cookie signature, he might be depending on something else. Now, when I open the cookie signature, now when I open the package.json, he might be depending on some other node modules required by cookie parser or so and so. And what are the other dependencies? Mocha and should is the node module. Like this, there is a chain. Whenever you say npm install, it will automatically take care of the chain, and what all the node modules whichever is dependent we have, it will simply install all the node modules. Okay, so the first thing what you say is, whenever you say npm install, it will automatically look for the package.json. Under the package.json, we are going to have the list of all the node modules what need to be installed for the current project. So for our case, we have mentioned package.json. This is what we have mentioned. And one more thing, this package.json also contains name of this current server, what is the version what you're using, either it is a private project or a public project, and it even has the startup command also. Okay, I will talk about this. I don't want to make too much burden on the day one itself, but along with this, dependencies are there. Tomorrow I'll talk about what do you mean by the start script, etc. and all. So along with the dependency, you can even specify author, who is the author of the node module. Every other information can be added within the package.json. Now, for example, cookie parser package is there. You see here, it is from cookie parser so and so. You should be able to see the author information. See here, who is the author who has created this node module? Holloway Chunk. Okay, what is his email ID? So and so. What is his URL? So and so. So like this, extra description, every other information. So who all are contributed in this? Douglas Christopher Wilson. So this is what his contact number is. So like this, like every other information, what version, what description, what package it is, what node module it is, who created it, who are the collaborators, who are the contributors, every other extra information of the current node module is always part of package.json file. Any questions up to this, guys? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Okay, you understood this? So how this folder got created? Remember, actually, this step we have done since long time. At the time, with a very
Early
blind
days,
knowledge.
Yes, sir.
starting
At the starting, we
Node.js
did that.
installer.
Exactly. But at that time, we did all this without any knowledge. We just said that, okay, boss, create a file project, and just you need to run the files from the server. That's it. That is what we wanted. But now we are going deeper. We need to understand what is this bin folder, why only public folder, why routes folder, etc. Till now, we have only seen package.json. So tomorrow I'll go to each and every folder. Then we'll be keep starting. I mean, first of all, we'll get a good understanding of what individual folder is, individual file is. Then we'll start working on tomorrow. We'll create a simple or sample project I will create, and we start working on how do we create the web services, etc. We'll go step by step. So hope everybody is clear today, whatever the discussion we have done.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So please put on the questions tomorrow if you have any questions. And now again, you start creating a new project here, and on the top, we'll go step by step things. Okay. So let's pause for today, guys. On the day one, I don't want to put extra burden on this. Okay. So tomorrow, we'll start from there itself. Okay. So have a good day.
Sir,
Yes.
a general.
Good night, sir.
Go ahead, Hemant. You're putting a question.
Sir, a general. There's a disturbance.
Hello.
Hemant, go ahead, please.
Yeah, sir. Sir, a general doubt, sir, that normally websites have their own names, sir, like google.com, facebook.com. But here we are giving just localhost 8081. So if we want to give names like in actual time, how is the process going on, sir? I mean, is there something called hosting and stuff like that?
Now, when I say something called as CMD, I go for something called as host name. This is what the name I want. Now, instead of local host, can I make use of this name? Yes or no?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, right? That is what Google guys are doing. They're actually putting the system name itself, what actually the server name they have. It is not that only local host will go. You can actually put a system name under which the server is running. So when you go to the Google guide, the server system, what actually they are running, the name itself is google.com, or not only google.com or not only amazon.com, you can even go with their IP also. Now say, for example, yeah, go ahead, please.
Sir, then what are these guy, for example, GoDaddy.com? So actually, what are they providing us, sir?
Okay, so Hemant, that's a very, very good question, but which needs a very elaborative answer. Can you please put it tomorrow on the very starting so that I will explain that, then I will go with the further. Is that
Okay,
fine?
sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead, Mayur.
I have one more question. What is the log4j issue? Means we don't know what is the log4j vulnerability something.
Okay, log4j is one of the package which is being used in the Spring or Java applications, which is used to log the user entries. Like whenever you feel like, okay, this has to be logged. Right now, when I say console.log, it is putting on the console. But if you want to log the user applications or user interactions or user interactions within applications, we use the log4j Java package. Point number one. Recently, it has gone through the vulnerability. So what is that? Someone has identified whenever you are creating a log4j, under that, it will ask you a key. They identified some of the key. If you give that key, you could able to hack the code what is happening on the log4. It is used to track all the user interactions. If people could able to hack that interactions using that key by providing that key, obviously security glitch, right? Am I clear, Mayur?
Yes, sir.
So when they identified that, okay, there is a glitch in the log4j, that is where they immediately released a new version of log4j. They asked every organization, whoever is using the log4j, make sure you update these guys immediately on the 0 day. 0 day in the sense you don't have a buffer. You know that you need to fix it. That's it. That is the reason this Sunday we were actually working. Even one, I mean, any project. I mean, 99% of the projects got affected. Everyone was working on Sunday. This Sunday, they have updated all the projects and they deployed it. And now everything got updated with the latest log4j version. So that is what the issue is.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Fine, guys. Have a good day and good night for all. Bye for today.
Good night, sir.